the theme of my speech today is sort of a top 10 list on the concept of really focusing on urban agriculture as an epicenter, or focusing on schools as an epicenter of urban agriculture, though I suppose you could say it vice versa as well. When I was asked to fill in for Rick at the speaking engagement, it came at a really good time because I had just finished touring a number of schoolyard gardens, vertical gardens, and so forth. So I have a lot of pictures that I'm going to share and intersperse with you today as I run you through my thoughts on the top 10. These are in no particular order. In fact, I know how to do it. It's just not working. Okay. Are you going to advance them for me? You're going to have to go fast. Okay. So, I'll just go like this for next slide, yeah? Okay. So as Niall said, USGBC is best known for the LEED Green Building Rating System. How many folks in this room have heard of LEED in some capacity? Okay, so I won't spend too much time on describing LEED and only say that I've introduced this visual representation to give you a sense of the types of components that we think of when we think about green building, everything from going clockwise from noon, a sustainable approach to sites, water efficiency, energy efficiency, responsible use of materials and resources, indoor air quality, and then my favorite, the maroon bubble that you see there, which stands for innovation in design or out-of-the-box thinking. So I wanted to just put into context the type of work that we do at the Center for Green Schools. This is an evolution of a drawing that our CEO, Rick, created when he was trying to describe the logic for creating the Center for Green Schools. He said USGBC was founded on this vision of market transformation. How can we get our communities to live and build, occupy and operate in a greener fashion? And so we created the LEED rating system. We now certify 1.5 million square feet of real estate every day. We created a professional designation called the LEED AP, and now we have a Green Associate. We've accredited more than 170,000 professionals. And then we created a place for everyone to come and be together. That's our annual Green Build Conference, which attracts anywhere between 25 and 40,000 people every year. But it turns out that after about 15 years of the combined efforts of all of these things, it's simply not enough to get us all the way to market transformation. And that's really where the Center for Green Schools comes in. It's this idea that green schools can serve as a kind of wedge for this conversation, not only introducing the dialogue of sustainability to our future leaders, but also serving as a wedge, because at the end of the day, we think that everyone can appreciate a healthy, high-performing student. So the Center for Green Schools has a very ambitious mission. It's green schools for every child within this generation. The work that we do sits at the intersection of buildings, curriculum, and communities. And for purposes of the conversation today, I thought that I would introduce the definition of a green school, a school that creates a healthy environment conducive to learning while saving energy, resources, and money. I think it's important to keep in mind that when we're talking about a green school, we're not just talking about energy efficiency or carbon neutrality or even lots of beautiful green plants, but it's rather this inclusive definition and an integrated approach to design and operations that allows us to use that terminology. So, I didn't think that this slide was in here, but but since it is, I'll tell you. This is a slide that I use often to reflect upon the significance of the Green Schools movement. So it's obviously introduced to give you a feeling of green schools being the greatest thing since sliced bread. But the logic that I have for making that kind of claim is a conversation that I had not too long ago with the editor-in-chief of the American School Board Journal, Glenn Cook, who offered us a regular article invited us to contribute a regular article in the American School Board Journal about the topic of green schools. And when asked why dedicate so much precious space within the magazine to this topic, he said, because we think that green schools are the biggest thing to happen to education since the introduction of technology to the classroom. So one of the things that is really most critical when it comes to a green school is this idea of the school itself serving as the teaching tool, and that's something that you're going to see reflected throughout the course of my presentation in some of these examples of urban agriculture at work. We believe that green schools are educating what we call a new generation of sustainability natives, students who are fluent in the language of green, who intuitively make decisions to use what they need instead of what they can. And I want to tell you the story of some of the most incredible and inspiring sustainability natives that I've met along the way. So I visited a girls' school outside of Los Angeles, and there was a junior there who had purchased with her own money a used pickup truck so that she could haul compostables from the cafeteria home several times a week because there was no room on campus to be able to undertake composting efforts. Next slide, please. And then that junior would hand the soil back to Sophie, a sophomore, who would use that rich, fertile soil to plant an organic vegetable garden on their school's campus. This was a project that Sophie designed from beginning to end. She submitted a proposal to her administration. She engaged her fellow students. She sought donations. She had famous authors and spokespeople come for the launch of the garden, just an incredible thing. But my favorite part of this process is what Sophie does when those vegetables are fully grown. She hands them off to another group of her classmates who bring a large portion of those vegetables to a women and children's shelter where they teach the children about healthy eating and nutrition. So I'm going to start walking you through my top 10 list now, and reason number one is really about bringing these efforts to scale. Many of us don't understand that 25% of America goes to school or sets foot on a campus every day. There are 133,000 K-12 schools in the United States alone and 4,300 college and universities, and never have we been able to count the buildings. Reason number two has to do with the fact that schools, at least in America, and I suspect in many other places too, although we're home of the mega district, are often the largest landowners in any given municipality. So these are pictures of students from Los Angeles Unified School District. That's the second largest school district in the US. They're wearing their solar-powered hats. They're learning not to think of solar power as alternative energy, but simply as a way to look to the sun to power what they do every day. So I'm going to show you a couple of, I'm going to introduce a few more of the top 10 list, walking you through this particular school, Northborough Elementary Montessori School in West Palm Beach, Florida. And it's really interesting to think about how a concept like urban agriculture can be appropriately applied to Montessori curriculum in particular, because that curriculum really involves on a self-guided, hands-on approach on the part of the students, and also real-world experiences for education. So here you see one of the science teachers at the school. He is showing a number of us who were touring around the school their hydroponic vertical gardens, where the rainwater is harvested from various places on site, stored in these cisterns, and then the students are able to grow plants out of these planters. Of course, it's not top season for them right now, but one of the things that he was explaining was that even the failures, or some of the early failures of this garden, the places where aphids infested the plants and the places where certain types of plants were dying off, where others were thriving, provided them with this incredible opportunity to incorporate these lessons and also introduce problem-solving concepts with even the youngest of students. So reason number three is because schools themselves can function as living laboratories, in particular when you're introducing things that are living. Next. So I think that Chief Lyons will appreciate that students really understand the concept of scarcity. It's a reality that they're living in every day. And these are some of the images, next please, from the Montessori school that really help to drive home not only the significance of these concepts, but the extent to which these students are internalizing this and the extent to which they understand that their lives are going to be impacted in very short order. So next stop on the tour is Pine Jog Elementary School in West Palm Beach, Florida. This is an incredible school. It's maybe you couldn't quite call it urban agriculture because it's sort of wedged between an urban setting and a very large land reserve. But nonetheless, they're exploring some of the most innovative urban agriculture strategies on behalf of one of the largest school districts in Florida. And really, it's become a model for the rest of the state. So here you see the students in their inner courtyard, and there's just this lush, outgrowth of pines and other foliage. And actually, within that outgrowth is another outdoor classroom. And the principal was explaining that the height of the trees is such that when the kindergartners are in that classroom, they actually have the experience of being in the forest. He also said that although there's quite a bit of land that Pine Jog backs up to, that in many cases the students that he's working with have never planted a plant, have never harvested their own vegetables, and really have not spent a whole lot of time outside. So fourth reason to think to schools in the urban agricultural conversation is about curriculum integration. So this is a picture of a science teacher at Pine Jog who's working with students to harvest the strawberries. And it's an incredible thing the way that Pine Jog has set up their post-harvest activities. So one of their biggest crops are strawberries. They have thousands upon thousands of strawberry plants in these vertical planters, which you'll see in just a moment. And they sell those strawberries, fresh strawberries, to their community, to parents, strawberries that have just been picked that day. They make a number of different products for the Strawberry Festival that they host every February. But in the beginning of the year, before any of that happens, they bring in a business consultant to sit down with the students, and the students actually write a business plan that details what they want to do with the profits. And so they've done everything from donating more than $4,000 worth of proceeds to tree planting efforts around the world, to investing in an on-site wind turbine that their principal says he's been dreaming of since they first opened the school. That is their principal. His name is Fred. And Fred there is showing you this just incredible vertical garden that they have, hydroponic, all being watered at almost every time of the year with non-potable water that is coming from the rainfall. So reason number 5 is for newsworthy moments. These kids were on the front cover of Time for Kids. So, we all know what a powerful role the media plays in elevating certain concepts and themes. And everybody likes a cute kid. So I think a lot of this in terms of building momentum for a movement comes from being able to tell the narrative to a more mainstream population. And I think that schools often afford the opportunity to do just that. Next. This is one of the most important reasons, I think, to house much of the work that we do either in schools or in proximity to schools, where students can be coming into contact with examples of urban agriculture, and even more importantly, maybe eating the food. Childhood obesity, of course, is rampant in the United States and in many, many other countries across the world. This is a picture of the peas that they grow at Pine Jog. Fred, the principal, said that it's the one thing they never get to sell because as soon as the kids pick them off of the trees, they eat them, these sugar snap peas. And he said most of these kids have never even tried that kind of vegetable before. Next. This is actually at a school I'm about to show you in Washington, D.C. called Stoddard Elementary School. These students are learning about cooking. They're creating their own fresh salad dressings. They're learning about various herbs. And the quote that I saw associated with this picture was one teacher describing her shock when she heard a student say, "More kale, please." So this is Stoddard Elementary School in Washington, D.C. Washington, though, still home to some of the most decrepit schools in the country, probably in the developed world, is also building some world-class schools, and this is one of the first examples. Stoddard Elementary is an incredible school. It's actually located in close proximity to most of the embassies in Washington, D.C., so this year they have well over 35 different countries and languages represented in Stoddard. So really, it's an incredible opportunity to educate the next generation of these students at Stoddard. Each grade has their own plot of land. They're actually behind these students here in the raised planter beds, and the kindergarten grows their crops in the greenhouse that's made completely out of recycled bottles. But this is the concept, right? That all of our future leaders are in school today, and what does it mean to give them a really engaging project-based experience? That not only are they getting their hands dirty, but they're having this visceral connection with the earth that I think so many of our students have lost. Stoddard also serves as a center of community. These are community volunteers coming in on the weekend. People who live in close proximity to the school come in and tend the garden over the weekend. So I think this is part of the story, right? Is that these things they emanate out into our community. Schools are often referred to as centers of the community, where people come for community gatherings, where they bring their where they come with their spiritual groups, with their brownie troops, whatever, throughout the evenings and into the weekends. And I think that this is probably one of the most powerful of concepts. This idea that introducing these concepts into a school is it creates a kind of ripple effect, right? So these students, they're bringing it home to their parents, to their siblings, to their families, to their peers. I was recently at a really incredible school in Georgia called High Meadows, and I was talking to just the nerdiest 7th grader you've ever met in your entire life, but he was so passionate, and he was a recent transplant to the school. He had only been at the school for 2 years, I think. And he was saying, I came to High Meadows and we do all of this gardening. We grow all these organic plants, and we're harvesting our own vegetables, and we're donating the excess to food banks. And he said, so, I went home, I had a conversation with my parents, and we started planting a garden at home. And then another student who was standing next to him said, right, I convinced my parents to start composting. And then another student standing next to her said, right, and I talked to my parents about going to places where we can buy local and organic food instead of buying something that comes all the way from Argentina or Chile. So you see the kind of education that we're providing, not just to other children, but also to our parents, their parents. So number 10, and I told you these are in no particular order because I in no way would put this on the number 1 list, but it did go with the flow of this presentation. There is an incredible opportunity in schools in the U.S., and I know that there are comparable opportunities across the world. We've actually been speaking to Ambassador Orrick about introducing a similar type of awards program at a global level, with him serving as the first host. In the United States, we just recently announced the launch of the Green Ribbon Schools program. You see, this is what urban agriculture looks like in D.C. This is our Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, the head of CEQ, Nancy Sutley, Lisa Jackson, the head of EPA, and a number of other local and national dignitaries planting a tree in honor of the launch of the Green Ribbon Schools program, which is the first federal program ever to look at a comprehensive approach to sustainability in schools. It will evaluate the best of the best schools in terms of their achievements around curriculum, around health, and around net impact in terms of energy, water, waste, carbon. And I wanted to just close by issuing a prompt for those of you who are involved in schools or looking for ways to involve schools. We are going to host the first annual International Day of Service for Green Schools on September 29th, 2011. We've already have about 20 countries who are signed up to participate in some capacity. This is really about getting out into your communities. I think for this crowd in particular, it serves as just a tremendous chance to introduce some of these concepts to schools by doing some sort of community education piece, by planting a garden, a living wall. There's lots of different variations on this theme. So I included the link there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's centerforgreenschools.org/green-service. And you can go in there and pledge a commitment, and then stay tuned for more information on what that day is going to look like. So with that, I will close with this final image of another interpretation on urban agriculture. At Pine Jog, the architects built a number of corner planters that don't get enough sun to grow even ferns. And so the students have their own interpretations of urban agriculture using all recycled and reused materials for their to make their school a colorful and welcoming place. Thank you.